statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Welcome Bitcoiners, welcome traders, welcome supporters, welcome followers, welcome haters, welcome to every single one. Welcome to another live space with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and I am your Bitcoiner for life. I'm also your 13%er. That's right, your 13%er Bitcoin. Now, it is customary for me to, at the top of each one of my live talks, to explain what 13%er means, simply because I am tired of answering it over and over again in individual posts. So let me just do that now. What do I mean by the fact that I'm a 13%er? I believe that anyone at this particular point who has adopted Bitcoin in any way can consider themselves elite. While it is an exact science trying to put your finger on the pulse of how many people have truly adopted Bitcoin in the form of holding it in any decent amount, while that's very difficult to determine, I have estimates less than half of 1% of all human beings on Earth have access to or have chosen to adopt Bitcoin in one form or another. That is extraordinarily small. And despite the fact that less than one half of all human beings have adopted Bitcoin, despite this fact, it has become the most secure network human beings have ever come in contact with. It has become the best performing asset in every single class that's conceivable in the history of the world. It has become the fastest adopted innovation or technology the world has ever known. And that's with just less than half of 1% of all human beings adopting it. This, in my opinion, makes all current adopters extraordinarily elite. They are rare. They are extraordinarily early. They are the early adopters of Bitcoin. Yes, we are still extraordinarily early. And despite the fact that all those in the world who have already adopted Bitcoin in some form or fashion, despite the fact that we can call them elite, there is a subset of that group that I would consider to be the elite of the elite, and that is the 13%ers. It has been said, and I believe the gentleman who started this was Jason Lopp. Jason Lopp basically said about a year and a half ago, I think it's a little bit more than a year now, he said that based on his work, that only 13% of all individuals who have adopted Bitcoin, or all companies, individuals, organizations who have adopted Bitcoin, are truly 100% Bitcoin, meaning that of all the people who own or hold or have adopted Bitcoin, they may have adopted it, but only 13% truly believe and know that Bitcoin is a one-off, that Bitcoin is the only innovation that counts, that Bitcoin can't have a copy, that Bitcoin can't have a 2.0 version of itself. The 13%ers understand that Bitcoin is not just an innovation, it is a discovery, and you can't discover something twice. 13%ers understand that there can never be a fire 2.0, a wheel 2.0, an electricity 2.0, an internet 2.0, and of course, they certainly know there can't be a Bitcoin 2.0. 13%ers understand that any attempt to claim that there can be another alternative to what Bitcoin has come to do is false. It is the height of naivety at best to believe that there can be something else. and it is an outright lie or scam at worst. And so that is what a 13 percenter is. And I am here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I am a part of that super elite 13% group. And if you are too, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. So guys, listen, without any further delay, I would actually like to talk to you about something that will involve me having to tell you a story. The title of this talk today is Why I Sold Thousands of Bitcoin and to this very day regret that act. Now, before I delve into the details of me doing such a stupid thing, I do want to let you know off the bat that I have never regretted missing the earlier cycles that have existed in Bitcoin. I have never regretted, and I continue to not regret the fact that I wasn't earlier than I was. I went in very heavily in Bitcoin in March of 2020, and I am very glad that I did not do that earlier than 2020. I am very glad that you cannot legitimately call me a Bitcoin OG. I am very glad that I did not live through all of the other prior cycles. I'm very glad that I did not buy or get Bitcoin in one form or another in the early days. I don't regret that because I've been in the financial arena for 4 decades, and I've been in this long enough to know that you can be too early to something. And sometimes being too early is worse than not being early. And I have done thousands upon thousands of hours of research. I've dedicated a big portion of my life since 2019 to this asset. And I've combed through the forums. I've combed through virtually everything I could get my hands on. I've read what the early adopters were saying. I understand the narratives that they were operating on. I believe that I understand the vision that they had back in the early days. And I am here to tell you that many of them, because of how early they were, they are no longer with us today. They are no longer Bitcoiners today. They are no longer, and they're certainly no longer the 13 percenters. Many of the early adopters of Bitcoin don't hold Bitcoin today. They sold out too early. They used it as a payments mechanism versus a store of value mechanism. They went to the medium of exchange stage too early, misunderstanding that before you can have a medium of exchange, a real sound one, it must live through a period of becoming a store of value stage. I believe that many of them were somewhat misled by the title of Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, where he labels the white paper a peer-to-peer cash settlement system. I believe in my heart that Satoshi Nakamoto named it that or labeled it that for marketing purposes. He was dealing with a group of individuals who for many years were looking to create a digital form of cash outside of the hands of human involvement. And because this group, in my opinion, were completely dedicated to this task, how could he gain the attention of this group if he did not label it that way? I believe that the early adopters got carried away with the fact that Bitcoin was supposed to be cashed and used on a day-to-day basis to buy your groceries, to buy your coffee, to pump your gas with. And as a result, they lost out on one of the greatest stores of value the world has ever seen. I believe that many of these early adopters failed to understand that money must go through all four stages of evolution before it can truly become a fully fledged successful money. Those four stages are: it has to become a collectible at first, which Bitcoin was in the early days, a collectible amongst a small group of people, a small group of nerds, a small group of computer whizzes. This collectible stage eventually morphs itself into a store of value stage. That is where we are right now in Bitcoin's burgeoning years of becoming a full-fledged money. It is not a full-fledged money now, and this is where I think the early adopters got it wrong. They failed to understand that you can't go to a fully fledged money from scratch. That's what a shitcoin is. That's what a guaranteed failure is. You must start off as a collectible and naturally morph yourself into a store of value. It must become stored by enough people before it can actually start to be used in its third stage, which is called medium of exchange. Until enough people have it, how can it become a medium of exchange? Until enough people accept it because they understand it as a store of value, how can it become a medium of exchange? You can't have a medium of exchange before the vast majority of people have a thing. A thing becomes tradable once you can be sure that the vast majority of people have it or want it. You can't have a medium of exchange before something becomes a store of value. And the early adopters failed to understand this. They were geniuses on the computer side. They were technologically superior to the vast majority of people on earth, but their knowledge of finance and their understanding of the history of money and how it must evolve through the four stages failed them. And as a result of that, their early adoption of Bitcoin in the era where most people were calling and seeing Bitcoin as just a simple another version of digital cash caused them to buy pizzas with it, coffees, socks, and every other dumb thing. And today, the vast majority of them have zero Bitcoin. You can be too early. I've seen this through my career over and over again. In many cases, the person who takes the first swipe at the tall grass doesn't win. Listen to me carefully, Bitcoiners. Listen to me carefully, traders, followers, haters, all of you. You've got tall grass. Oftentimes, the first group of people that attack the super high tall grass and knock 2/3 of the grass down, they often are not the winners. They often shave enough of the tall grass down enough for others to see clearer than they were ever able to see. All the early ones saw were tall grass. All they saw was tall grass. And all they knew was, let's get this grass down. Once they get the grass down, those behind them are able to see further. Those who saw the grass first are tainted by them only knowing the grass being tall. And so oftentimes it's the second and third layers behind the initial people who knocked the tall grass down. They are not poisoned by a past of tall grass. All they see is clear skies and air in front of them. I believe that coming in 2020 was coming in after the tall grass was gone. I believe that coming in 2020 in a very big way was one of the most perfect entry points for Bitcoin. In fact, I believe that in 2020, Bitcoin was safer and more secure as an asset than it ever was back in the old days, even at zero. It was more uncertain. It was less tested. It wasn't as secure. It was still finding its place in the world as a store of value. It was still in the trinket stage. It was still in the collectible stage. But 2020 kicked off its second era, the most important era of the four eras, in my opinion: store of value. Collectible first, store of value second, the most important stage of all, then medium of exchange, where you can start changing it for pizzas and t-shirts and pumping your gas with it. After medium of exchange, when enough people start trading it back and forth with each other, it naturally begins to be the unit of account that you price things in. But these things cannot be brought about by a human being. These stages can't be ignited or run by human involvement. They must be natural events from the natural forces of the market. The market determines when these stages start and when they finish. And the stages do overlap to add a greater level of complexity to our talk here. But my main point here is that if I had started before 2019, 2020, 2020 is when I made the plunge. 2019 is when I started my study. And I struck in 2020, which we'll get to. But my point here is this, that if I started before, I know I would have sold out of it. I know that if $1,000 became $500,000, I'd be gone. I know that if $1 million became $20 million, I'd be gone, and it would still be too early to be gone. I know and teach my traders every day that once you sell, you are psychologically a different trader. And the trader who sells and exits has a far more difficult time getting back in because he has something to risk. The trader after a sell is not the same trader before the sell. He is psychologically different. He's psychologically now more defensive in his stance, and that trader, that player it'll be far more difficult to risk what he's locked in than to add to what he already has. I teach my traders this every day. I know the psychological elements of exiting and claiming that you're going to get in at a lower price. I know I would have wound up with less Bitcoin if I started earlier. I know I would have sold out earlier. I know it would have been difficult for me to get back in because I would have had too much to protect. And I know that the odds would have increased for me to actually move to something else like a shitcoin, feeling like I missed my opportunity in Bitcoin because I had so much. It is very difficult to have 5,000 Bitcoin to sell out for a huge profit, and now realizing that you sold your 5,000 Bitcoin too early, and to get your 5,000 Bitcoin now costs you millions of dollars when it used to cost you hundreds of dollars. It is very difficult for a person that paid $500 for 500 Bitcoin to re-enter the market for the same 500 Bitcoin for tens of thousands of dollars. The person who got 500 Bitcoin for $500 will almost never get back in or buy 500 Bitcoin for $1 million. Psychologically, it makes it almost impossible for them to do it because they're like, I'm not paying $1 million for what I bought for $500 at one point in my life. It's never going to happen. And so many of the early Bitcoiners are in this stance today. They have very little to no Bitcoin today because they sold out early, and they can't possibly see themselves paying millions upon millions of dollars for the same thing they got for pennies or dollars. You can be too early, and I'm very glad that I wasn't too early. So point number one in my talk today is that I never regret missing out on the early cycles. I believe I hit this thing perfectly, and I've always been lucky. I'm sorry if that sounds egotistical, but I've always been blessed. I've always been lucky. I hit this thing at the right time. Now, let me go on to point number 2. While I never regret not getting in on the earlier cycles, never, what I do regret is selling thousands upon thousands of Bitcoin between the prices of $12,000 and $14,000 a coin in 2020. I live with this mistake every single day of my life. This mistake of mine, which I regret up to this very second. I believe that this mistake will never be forgotten by me. I believe that it will forever haunt me. I believe that it is this that I will regret going forward. It is not the not being involved in the prior cycles. It was the letting go of what I had. I let go of thousands of Bitcoin at between 12 and 14,000 because I didn't quite yet understand what I had. I didn't understand that I had the rarest asset ever made available to human beings. I did not understand that I had an asset that human beings can't influence, yet was available to every human being. I did not quite fully understand or grasp the enormity of the fact that it becomes more scarce and more scarce by the day, by the hour, by the month, by the week, by the year. I did not fully grasp the enormity and the huge importance of the fact that this is the only asset that the human race has ever had that is provably scarce and is absolutely finite, that nothing else in the universe is finite. All of these things I didn't understand. I did not understand that it was indestructible, that I did not understand and appreciate the fact that its monetary policy is known up front from day one and will never change. I did not understand that it's deflationary in nature. And I did not understand the enormity of that it was the most secure network on the planet, and that it actually runs without human involvement. In fact, I did not fully understand that this is the first asset to ever exist that actually pays human beings to protect it and keep it alive. I did not understand these things in all of its enormity. I did not understand that Bitcoin was math, and math can't be destroyed. It's an element of the universe that will exist forever. I did not understand that Bitcoin is language, and language can't be stolen. Language can't be confiscated. I did not understand that Bitcoin is time, and time is immemorial. Time is indestructible, and time is finite in the universe. These are the things that I understood after I sold thousands of Bitcoin at between 12,000 and 14, feeling and thinking like I was a freaking genius. Meanwhile, I was a bozo. I was a clown, because I let go the most special thing human beings have ever been exposed to. And I am only fortunate that these realizations hit me shortly after. So if you'll allow me, let me take you down memory lane and tell you a story, and I'll try to keep it brief. This story starts in the latter part of 2019. I had a group of traders, 2017, I correct that. This story starts in the latter part of 2017. My trading organization and I are having one of the best years in our entire history. It's a huge year. We're nearing the end of this year, and I could no longer ignore the ramblings amongst my traders of this thing called Bitcoin. That while we were having this extraordinarily profitable year on the trading side, The traders who had also participated in the bull run of Bitcoin, which we did not do, they considered themselves more elite than all others. And their constant nagging me to get involved with Bitcoin, I just simply could not ignore anymore. And at this time, I put my foot down. It's November of 2017. And I say, listen, the next person who brings up this bullshit Bitcoin to me, the next person will find that the day they bring it up to me will be the last day they are part of my organization. I do not want to hear about this thing. I've taught you better than this. This is what I told them. I've taught you that the last thing you want to get involved with is something that has had a meteoric rise, that is far away from all technical support, all moving averages, and you're telling me I should get involved in Bitcoin now. The next person who mentions Bitcoin to me is gone from my life forever. And I actually had to fire a number of my traders who actually continued to talk about it. I'm almost ashamed to tell you this today because my stance against Bitcoin was like the stance of many other people that come from my field. This is BS. I don't care how much it's run up. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to look at it. Don't bring it up to me. What I decided to do, though, is while I gave those instructions, I did at the same time realize I can't fight the fact that increasing numbers of my traders want me to look at this. So I'm going to start monitoring, which I never monitored Bitcoin prior to November of 2017. What I told my inner circle is about maybe 5 people. I said, I'm going to start monitoring. I don't want anybody talking about this, but I'm going to start monitoring it. And I want to see this thing crash. I remember it like it was yesterday. They do too. I want to see this thing crash, and I want to see it survive. If this thing can crash and survive, then I believe it is worthy in the future of us playing in it. But I've got to see it survive. I've got to see this meteoric rise collapse, get killed, and stabilize. If it can't do that, then I was right. If it can, then it's time to add this to the equation. To make a long story short, I studied Bitcoin from nearly $20,000 as it dropped and dropped and dropped all the way to its low. I did not participate it. I monitored it, not every single day, admittedly, but I would spot check it every couple of weeks. I would monitor its bars, its downward moves, the velocity of its decline. I kept certain levels in mind. Once again, try to make a long story short, Bitcoin bottomed around $3,200. I remember this specifically. I told my inner circle that it looks like it's trying to bounce off of this $3,000 level. Now what I need to see, and all of my traders can tell you this is our method, that the first bounce after a very climactic drop to the downside, and you have to consider a decline from 20,000 to 3,000, a climactic drop. The first bounce is never the one. That's never the one that goes. Never, 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 never get pulled into the first bounce up after a sharp decline. My traders will tell you this. It's one of our principles. The first bounce is false. The first attempt up is not the one. All right. So I told my inner circle, here's the first bounce coming off of 3,200. This is not the one. But what Bitcoin did with me is it blew me away by how violent the bounce up was. That's not the one. I knew the bounce off 3,200 wasn't the real bounce. I knew it wasn't the one to play, but it went further than I thought it was ever going to go. That impressed me. It bounced from 3,200 to 14,000 more or less. That's an abnormal bounce. That bounce led me to believe that the next decline is viable, and the next decline from 14,000 is not going to make a lower low. So I picked my point, $6,000. If Bitcoin can drop from 14,000 down to 6, we're going to go in. My inner circle was ready. Bitcoin seemed like it didn't want to get to that 6,000 level until March of 2020. March of 2020, as you know, November 13th, I am in New York. I am being honored for 33 years. I think it was 33 years. 33 years in the professional business. 33, yeah, something like that. 33 years in the business. I'm being honored on the date of March 13th. It's March 12th. I'm in the lobby of my hotel. Bitcoin is collapsing. I have buy orders under 6,000. I have 5,800, 5,300, every $500 down. 5,800, 5,300, 4,800. So I always use the number 8 and 3, right? So 5,008, all right? 5,003. Now 4,008, 4,003, 3,008, 3,003, like that. So every $500 down, I had buy orders in, and each buy order was double the prior one. So if I bought, to make numbers simple, if I bought 10 Bitcoin at the first level, 5,008, I was going to buy 20 Bitcoin at 5,003. And then I was going to double from 20 to 40 Bitcoin at 4,008, and then 80 Bitcoin at 4,003, and so forth and so on. But our numbers were bigger. All right. But I want you to understand that. I'm making noise on this desk here. I hope the voice is not too disruptive. I want you to understand the pyramid approach we use. We start off at a certain point and buy bigger and bigger when we feel we have the area of a low. I felt that 6,000, right under 6,000 was the area of the low, and I was willing to buy all the way down through, slightly through the prior low, which was 3,200. Well, Bitcoin hit about as low as 3,800 on that secondary drop. I had my bag, and on the way up, I kept hitting it. So we bought Bitcoin all the way down from 58, 53, 48, 43, 38, 33, 38. Then on the way up at the same levels, 38, 40, 40, 43, 43, 48, all the way up back to 6,000. This got thousands of Bitcoin. Now, here, I promise you, I'm near the end of the story. I have this general guideline that if you get a very quick, right, on a long-term play, a medium-term play, if you get a quick 100%, you take some off, you take some home for the kids. If you triple, you take the majority off. But the triple is not that you take the majority off every time you triple your money. It's if you triple faster than what is statistically the norm, you take the majority off. So Bitcoin tripled my play faster than, I can't say faster than any other asset, but certainly faster than anything I would have expected. And as a result of this, I applied my rule. If I get a triple faster than normal, 2/3 comes out. That's my rule. I was still approaching Bitcoin as this just another item to trade based on my trading rules. So what happened is that I stacked sell orders between 12 and 14. Now think of the pyramid that I bought in. A little at 58, 5,800, a little more at 5,300, more at 4,800. Now think of that pyramid reverse. A little at 12,000, more at 12,000. So a little at 12,003, more at 12,008, a little at 13, more at 13.3, more at 13.8, like that. Same system, just coming out on the other side, right? So I'm out of 2/3 of my position, and my plan is to go back in on a 50% retracement. So I feel that if we can get down to around 7,000 again, I'll start the trade all over again. Well, you know what happened. I'm waiting for the dip to around 7, 8,000, and the dip never comes. This thing basically blasts all the way up toward 20,000. And I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, it just blasted through everything right to 19.6 or so. And it is somewhere along the way up toward this 19 that all of my study over the past year, I guess, reached this tipping point. And boom, in one moment, the epiphany happened. Oh my God, what did I do? In one moment, I realized I may have made one of the biggest mistakes of my entire career. I may not be able to get this back now. I tell you, Bitcoiners, traders, I went on a rampage. I bought every single day, every little red bar, every little dip, every little drop. I bought Bitcoin every single day of my life from 19,600. I got a little dip. I remember this. I got a little dip to about 16 or so. I can't remember the exact price, but it was in that 16. So I got a little dip, and I bought that as aggressively as I could. But it was painful. Do you understand that I had this Bitcoin at 38, 43, 48? I'm buying at 16, 17, 18. I'm buying the Bitcoin that I had at 38. Do you understand the difference of the cost? Do you understand how much exponentially more difficult it is to get that same amount? And I didn't. I chased my thousands of Bitcoin all the way up to 69,000. Yes, I bought near 69,000. I bought every single day, people. I was obsessed with getting it back, and I wasn't even close. I wasn't even close. I wasn't even close to what I had at 69,000. And I'm up huge from a US dollar point of view, but it still is like I lost because I had so much of this thing. And I wasn't even close. When the Bitcoin bear market began, this gave me great relief. I realized that I was going to get a reprieve here. I was going to get an opportunity to maybe get it all back. If only the bear market could last long enough. If only the bear market was deep enough. If only if only Bitcoin could drop all the way back to the $14,000 error, maybe I could get it all back. But I had used so much resources on the way up to try to get it back. It was going to be challenging. My traders can tell you, we mapped out a plan for the whole bear market. Not only did I continue to buy every single day of my life, right? I'm fortunate enough to have cash flow that comes in every day from trading. So I bought every single day. I also had a plan to buy every certain 1,000 points down. In addition to every single day, I had automatic DCAs going on. All right, weekly, monthly, set it and forget it. I would do smash buys on big red bars. I would do smash buys every percent down. I would do smash buys every few $1,000s down, and I would trickle buy every single day. Bitcoin came all the way down to 20,000, and I still didn't have what I sold. Bitcoiners, this is one of the reasons I am so adamant about a no sell policy with Bitcoin. It's too early. I promise you, if you get in this habit of trading Bitcoin and trying to come out and come back in, as I've done my whole career, I now know it's wrong with this asset. It was wrong. I actually told traders it was wrong when we did this with Amazon too. So I know I should have known better, but I was treating Bitcoin as like any other asset until the epiphany came for me. But despite the fact that I was buying every single day, guys, I actually cashed out of a lifetime accumulation of all of my gold. I sold every single, well, I have 1 ounce for nostalgia. I sold every single ounce of gold I've been accumulating since, guys, and I've been accumulating since 1996. Gold. I sold every ounce of gold to go into Bitcoin. And guess where all of that gold's money went into Bitcoin at? In the 40,000s. I'm still underwater with those buys, probably not for long, but that doesn't matter to me. My point is that despite the fact that I bought every single day, despite the fact that I smashed bought on all big red bars, despite the fact that every few $1,000s down I smashed buy, despite the fact that I DCA'd every single week and every single month, auto plans all over the place. If you had an auto DCA plan, I was part of it. I still didn't have the Bitcoin that I sold between 12 and 14,000. Despite the fact that Bitcoin fell from 69 to 20, I still didn't have it. Now, all right, without doxing myself too much, thank the market gods for having Bitcoin smile on me. Thank the market gods for FTX. Thank the market gods for scam, bankrupt, fraud. Thank the market gods for Alameda. Thank the market gods for CZ for helping to pull the plug. Thank the market gods for the SEC becoming hostile against a spot ETF. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because that additional drop down to the mid 15,000 is what did it. And had it not been for bankrupt fraud, had it not been for stupid FTX, if it had not been for dumb Alameda, if it had not been for Gary Gensler, the SEC, DCA, Digital Currency Group, or DCG, Digital Currency Group, Gemini, all of that nonsense, I would have still been fighting to get it all back. That last little part tipped me over the edge. And I thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But you may not be so lucky. You may not be so blessed. The odds, in fact, are against you being blessed. I am constantly fielding these questions, but Oliver, how is selling not smart when this thing runs up so much? Why not sell and get back in lower? Yeah, like I was doing between 12 and 14 and wanted to get back in at 7,000, right? Listen, I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to go. We all play the lead role in our Disney-like movie. We write the movie script in our mind. We're the director, and we're always the star. But we're never really that good, are we? This idea that you're gonna sell the top and get back in at the bottom is bullshit. It almost never happens. First of all, it is not even smart to do when you realize you have a life-changing asset. You trade shit, you don't trade quality. All right? You sell bullshit, you don't sell quality. All right? The Indian sold Manhattan. Wrong. You're selling Bitcoin. Wrong. First thing I'm going to point you to is the fact that if you live in a tax greedy jurisdiction like the United States or the UK or whatever, if you live in a tax greedy jurisdiction, when you sell Bitcoin, you are already bringing on almost half of Bitcoin's bear market upon you instantly. Think about this, traders. Think about this, Bitcoiners. Let's take 40%. Bitcoin has an average bear market of 80%. If you take profits, you are fast forwarding 40% tax bite on you from day one. You actually bring about a 40% tax. You bring about a 40% bear market on your profits before the 40% decline in Bitcoin even occurs. Is that smart? And some of you bozos are going to say, well, Oliver, my tax rate is 33%. Dude, come on, you get the point. You're bringing on a bear market just by taking profits. That's number one. And number two, who says where you're selling at the top is the top? What if you miss another double? I thought 14,000 was the top. It actually turned out to be 19,600 short term. 19,600 became 16,000, if you can call that a top. It really turned out to be 64,000. Was the real top that gave you a 50% pullback. No other dip from that point, from the point I sold at 14,000, no other dip gave you a 50% pullback except the dip from 64 down to 28. That's what I call getting back in on a dip, a 50% or more pullback. So I So if by me selling at 14,000, I missed a run from 14 to 64,000. Who says that you are good enough in you? I know how you write your character in your own Disney movie, but who says you're good, you're really good enough as you're really good as you think you are, and you're going to pick the top? I've been in this business for 4 decades and I missed the top. The top was in 14, the top was 64, and then later 69. And I'm at this game much longer than you. You're not that good, buddy. I'm sorry. So not only by selling, do you bring about almost half of Bitcoin's statistical bear market upon yourself instantly via taxes, you probably won't even nail the top and miss additional gains. Those are 2 reasons why selling is stupid. Third reason, let's say you nailed the top like a freaking pro. Let's say the script that you wrote, your character is some masterful trader that can read the future and know this is the top, and you get it right. You nail the top. You don't worry about your tax hit because you're going to go in at the bottom 18 months later. Really? Seriously, Bitcoiner? Seriously, trader? Yeah, right. You're telling me you're going to keep that money that you locked in, pay your taxes, keep the rest locked away. You're not going to do anything with it. You're not going to take another play. You're not going to buy another shitcoin. You're not going to buy another stock, an options, a futures contract. You're not going to buy a little something with the gain for your wife, for your kids, for yourself. You're not going to take a little trip. You're not going to blow it on something. You're going to have all of that money intact, untouched 18 months later, and you're going to pile in exactly when the low is. Give me a freaking break. You're not that good, buddy. It ain't going to happen. It'll happen in your dreams, but after you wake up, you'll realize you're in real life. That doesn't happen in real life. Selling is dumb. You bring about a bear market on yourself via taxes, number one. Number two, you'll probably pick the wrong top. Number three, even if you pick the right top and take the tax hit, you're going to lose the money you have on some other bullshit. I know you. You know why I know you? Because I know human nature. I've been around traders my whole adult life. I've trained probably half of the industry's traders. I know what you bozos do. I know you can't have money. That money will burn a hole in your pocket. You'll go out and buy a Ferrari. You'll go out and buy a Lambo. You'll buy a house with it. Or you'll blow it on a trip around the world. You'll blow it on your friends. You'll buy purses with other men's money on it for your girlfriends. You'll buy purses with other men's names on the purses for your girlfriends for thousands of dollars. Silly shit like that. You'll take the money and try to make another play out of it while you're waiting for Bitcoin's bear market. You'll go into the stock market and lose it, or you'll move the money into a shit coin because you've been told somewhere that after Bitcoin finishes its run, it's time for the shit coins to run. I know you. You won't keep the money. You won't have it. And you'll wind up with less Bitcoin over time trying to be cute. If you really want to take full advantage of Bitcoin's life-changing qualities, its ability to change not only your life, but lives in your family line that haven't been born yet. If you really want to take full advantage of that, if you want to change the course of history for your whole name, your surname, if you want your name to be remembered by great-great-grandchildren that haven't even been thought about being conceived yet, then the only way to do that is to not sell The only way to do that is to accumulate and to use every bear market drop as a way to get more, every dip as a way to get more, every piece of FUD as a way to get more, is to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. That's the only way. But that takes conviction, people. That takes study. That takes thousands of hours going down the rabbit hole to understand what you truly have. Because once that epiphany hits, once that understanding reaches the depths of true understanding, the type of the agape type of understanding, the understanding that runs through your veins, that pumps through every fiber of your being, that you know that despite the fact that the US dollar is telling me that Bitcoin is worth this, I don't believe it. I know what I have. I know what this is. I know what it's going to be. When your conviction gets to that point, and that point only, will you be able to survive the volatility. Only at that point will you be able to live through the big, deep pullbacks and actually look at them as gifts and use them as an opportunity to become bigger in Bitcoin. Because without that conviction, the volatility is going to kill you. Without that conviction, the drops are going to have you getting out at the wrong time and getting in at the wrong time perpetually. You can't cheat Bitcoin. You're gonna have to put work in. It's built on a proof of work system. So you're gonna have to work at your understanding. You're gonna have to study. You're gonna have to read. You're gonna have to listen. You're gonna have to stay close to me, maybe even. Because it's not going to happen without that level of understanding. And that is what I have dedicated my time here to do, is to help you make that transition. It's to help you see what I see. It's to help prevent you from making the mistake that I made, that costs me millions of dollars more to get the same thing that costs me exponentially less, substantially less than I had before. Don't be me. Don't be these crapto bros out here, crapto bros out here. Don't be so naive to think this is the same thing as any other financial asset. It's not. Put the work in, guys. Put the work in. I truly hope that the same miracle that happened to a 4-decade very decorated OG in the financial space and the trading space. I'm hoping, I pray that you are as fortunate as I have been to truly get this epiphany, to understand it to the point where you begin to use Bitcoin as your unit of account, that you begin to measure everything in life by this unit of account, that you begin to price everything in your life by this unit of account. And when that day comes, when that moment comes, your life will be changed forever. When you look at the world through the eyes of Bitcoin, you can't ever see it differently anymore. It's truly the red pill, the orange pill, if you will, that raises the curtain and allows you to see things for how they truly, really are. When you price the S&P 500 in Bitcoin, you realize how much of a shit coin the S&P 500 is. I've been playing the S&P 500 stocks my whole career. When you price the NASDAQ composite in Bitcoin, you realize what a shit coin the NASDAQ is compared to Bitcoin. When you price gold in Bitcoin, you see gold for its inferiority. When you price Apple stock, Microsoft stock, Tesla, you see them for their inferiority. When you price bonds in Bitcoin, you see bonds for how inferior they are. When you price real estate in Bitcoin, you start to see how inferior that asset is compared to Bitcoin. When this epiphany happens, everything gets viewed through the lens of Bitcoin, and you wake up. And I'm telling you, traders, I'm telling you, Bitcoiners, it is time to wake up. Wake up and seize the day. Because this opportunity we have is not going to be available the way it is today forever. I am not saying that the benefits of Bitcoin will stop at some point in the future. I am not saying that. I believe that Bitcoin will be the gift that continues to give to human society forever. Its benefits are infinite in breadth and time and space. There will always be ways to benefit from Bitcoin. But the opportunity that exists today at this early stage in Bitcoin's evolution, this opportunity today won't last for long. The staking your claim in this network in any substantial amount, this opportunity, the opportunity to stake your claim is disappearing. The same way that the opportunity for free land in the United States to promote exploration and development of undeveloped pieces of the United States. They used to give out free land. That opportunity is gone. After the free land stage, it was low price stage. That's the stage that we're in now. Low price for land in the United States is gone. Free land in the United States is gone. Free Bitcoin land is gone. Low price Bitcoin land is here. But it's not going to be here forever. Your $100 today still means something. But at $500,000, it doesn't mean much. And at $1 million, it means almost nothing. The time is now. Wake up. All right, traders, listen. I'm always telling you that there is only one thing in life more valuable than Bitcoin, and that is your time. Your time is limited, your time is scarce, and your time is finite. And it should not be lost that Bitcoin is time as well. But you've decided today, whether you're listening to this live or in a recorded fashion, you have decided to give that to me. That is something that I do not take for granted. You have gifted me with the most precious thing you have, which is your time. And I vowed a long time ago that each time I grab a mic, each time I'm afforded the opportunity to speak to even one person from a stage, a podium, a platform, a media outlet, I will do my best to leave something of value. I hope I've done that here in this talk. And if I haven't, if I failed in some way, I promise each and every time I'll get better and better. I apologize for not being able to take any questions today. I've got to run, but this episode will wind up on my podcast, Bitcoin Unleashed. I strongly encourage that you follow. If you found anything here of value, follow my podcast on Fountain, on Spreaker, wherever. It'll soon be available on all of the podcasting outlets. But if you follow me on Fountain, you'll be able to earn some free Satoshis. All right. Ciao for now. And stack harder.
My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time.